You're listening to the Awakened Feminine podcast. I'm your host, Kaki Lee. Welcome. Each week, I'll be chatting with thought leaders from around the world as they share the love and wisdom they've picked up along the way in this journey called life. Whether it be their stories, lessons, tips, or expertise in the field, you'll be sure to get your weekly dose of inspiration and tools on how to lead a soul-aligned life. Let's go. So good to have you back here on the Awakened Feminine podcast. I was just saying before we jumped on that it was February last time you came on, and I know a lot has happened, in your life, in my life, in everyone's life since we last spoke. So, I'm so excited to, see what magic and wisdom that you're going to bring forth tonight. Well, it's nighttime for me, it's afternoon for you, but you're in Estonia. Yes.
Estonia, I think it's the fifth most northern capital in the world.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But it's about 4:30 now here, so it's nice winding down after a busy day, and I'm so excited. And let's talk about things that's happened. And there's so much that we can demonstrate by talking about the energies. Last year was such a fast moving year, and yet it felt like 5 years passed. And so many things has changed since I've seen you last and we recorded last. So yeah, it's interesting to reflect and share.
Yes, I know. So, for those of you who don't know Juliette is an online visibility strategist who helps experts and coaches embody and magnetize the marketing using human design. And if you've listened to my podcast before, you would have heard me harp on about how I love human design and how it's changed my life. And I just love that Juliette is an expert in it. So we're just going to talk. And I've had she's done a business marketing, blueprint for me before. So yeah, she's the real deal. So Juliette, before we get started, I always love to ask my guests this question, and I know it's ever evolving. So what is your current definition of the awakened feminine?
Wow, I love this question and I don't actually remember, honestly and frankly, I don't remember what I said last year. For me, this is all about permission to be you, to be authentically you, unapologetically, learn about you, grow into real you, stop living your life the way others expect you to, focus within your, as females, feminine. But it's not just only females that have feminine parts, right? And so that feminine, that being open to receive that wisdom and flow, and this is something that everyone has. And tapping into this, you can only do this by allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to be you. And that's exactly why I am such an enthusiast with human design, because even without knowing much about it, you can still use it in your everyday life to give yourself permission to be you. And miracles happen. This is my third year consciously living human design, although I'm familiar with human design for years and I've worked with it, but I live this stuff. I don't just talk about it or dive too deep into the knowledge. By the way, just a little correction. I am not a human design expert. I'm not a certified reader. What I am is an expert on online visibility for coaches and experts who do it solo, like me. And I'm an expert on why things don't work for, some people, and the same strategies work for other people. What human design gave me is this permission to be you in your life, but also in your business and marketing. Because I believe that, especially when we're building our businesses and we're showing up online, this is just the virtual representation of who we are in real life, with a huge advantage. We don't have to worry if the person we're talking to wants or doesn't want to listen what we have to say, because in real life, when you're with people face to face, you start getting excited about something that you're so into, and you see the blank face and it just stops you in your tracks, and it's a horrible feeling, because geographically it's very difficult to find your people, but online we don't have that barrier, so you can show up and create content and share whatever you want, whichever you want. This is the most intimate way we can show up, the most authentic way we can open up. And that, I think, is awesome. And so I'm an expert on that. And human design gives me a compass that we can use, working with clients and myself. What is actually your thing versus not your thing? I'm so happy to talk about this today and reveal a couple of concepts that are big aha moments in my life. And hopefully for our listeners, it will also give that permission to be you.
I love that. And I love what you said about, your current definition of the awakened feminine is that, giving yourself permission to be you. I mean, I've lived my life for like so many years not giving myself permission to be who I truly am. It was always what other people expect of me or what I think other people, think of me and expect of me. So really being able to embody that, I think it's such a beautiful process and such a beautiful thing to do. And I know you say you're not like certified or you're not expert in human design, but you embody it, right? And I think when you embody it, you have the expertise, even though, it's not in the general sense of like, what people would say. Yeah. So
to my design profile too, by the way, just as we're speaking about it, because I'm a 1-3 and the third line is the line of experiencing, testing, trials, but actually experiencing. So yes, you have to live to know it, and you're right, and so if anyone out there ever in any other areas of life, you have like a little hookup, like, oh my God, I don't have a certification. Oh my God, I don't know enough. People with the open head and ajna centers tend to do that. It's okay, because your lived experience is just as good and sometimes better. So just live it, just try it.
It's interesting that I say that because I've got an open head and open ajna, open throat and open, is it heart? No, what's yeah.
The identity center.
So these 4 are open and the rest are all defined. So I always get things and I'm like, oh. So it's very interesting that you say
this energy that wants to come out. It just wants to come out. It doesn't have direct channel to the throat to go and manifest immediately. So it builds up, and it's like the adrenaline is pumping from your root and going through emotions and, going through your sacral, expanding or contracting or whatever it does, and it's like this energy wants to come out, but on top, you don't have the certainty and you don't know. And sometimes you don't know, maybe you can get hooked up on things that don't belong to you. And the thing is that I find that it doesn't matter which design you have. I might have described it and you, Kaki, or someone says, oh, that doesn't sound good. It sounds fantastic. It's a beautiful design, the perfect for you, because you are designed to experience this lifetime, this one, this journey in a particular way. So that's what you're doing. So instead of resisting that, why not lean into that?
Yeah.
And discover the miracles, but yeah, it's true. It's a very interesting design that you have now. I remember it now.
Yeah. Yes. I want to ask you, before we dive into, becoming a client magnet by human design, how did you get into, human design? Like, how did you discover it, and what made you go, this is my thing, like this is what I want to, follow and embody?
It's such a good question, because a lot of people who come across human design, there's 2 kind of groups, teams. One team, they come across human design and they reject it immediately. And then very often human design comes back into their lives, sometimes years after, and all of a sudden it's the right timing, it's the right moment, and it's like, wow, this is it. Human design is not a rule book. So it's not, it really is just a couple of basic concepts, and the rest is just adding on all the knowledge. It's a really, really complex system, human design system. It's been developed over so many years by Ra, Uruhu, and also, people who followed him and studied. But it didn't start like a big system. It started in a very basic concept of, you have your inner guidance, you have your inner authority, and also you have your energy type, which helps you, which first of all determines your existential question. And that actually helps really think about who you are. And I'm going to explain now with my own story how it is. When you know what you're here existentially to experience, then the question who you are or what you're doing, it becomes much easier, because we're all thinking like, why am I here? What is the lesson here? Or what am I doing? But this gives you this direction. So there's the 2 basic concepts: your energy type, your and your aura. So you're an emotional generator.
Yes.
You have this big aura, it's kind of like an octopi, like a vortex. It just brings things constantly into your life, and you have an inbuilt physical way of expanding to things that you have available energy for. Let's say yes, or contracting. Like, no, that's not for me, and so understanding that you operate like this, we don't get that when we're parented as kids. We don't even know that this exists. So it's then when as adults we come to this concept, and I don't feel anything inside. What are you talking about? But it's like a muscle. If you have never exercised and then you went and did a lower body workout, and the next day you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I didn't know I have that in my butt. That feeling? Yes. And that's exactly the kind of feeling when you start building awareness. It's like a muscle. You then become aware that it's there. You start paying attention. Then you start actually working with it, and so it shapes into a beautiful looking muscle, right? That's how it works. So it's the same with human design. For me, I'm a projector. I'm a projector with a splenic authority. Projector, the generator. So you're here. Your existential question is, who am I? 70% of people in the world are generators. You guys are here to really understand what makes you vibe. Where are you satisfied in being yourself and doing something, being together with someone or on your own, but it's always about you. So even your togetherness is going to be about you and your experience in it. Energetically, projector is a very different creature. It's literally from another planet, because the projectors, for us, togetherness is being locked on the other. Our existential question is, who is the other and who am I in relation to this other? So we can be, every experience is always locked on others. And here's where we have different strategies energetically. So I described the generator, your aura, pulling things in from the outside, and then inside you have this mechanism that just says yes, no, yes, no. So it's about you, right? You don't need anybody. You just need things on the outside to respond to within yourself. Yes, I want to vibe on this. I feel I have the energy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to feel great. Or no. And if you don't follow this, you meet resistance. It causes frustration. And there are a lot of people who are frustrated because we're so conditioned how things should be. Your aura is very porous, and therefore it's a little bit, I'm going to use the word confused. And with the confusion, this is why conditioning really grabs onto this. You need to be told how it should be done. But really, no. But really, you have this aura that just delivers things to you. So this is how the energetically it works with the generator. But with the projector, it's different because we're so locked on the other. So our aura is more like an ice cream cone, and it gets hooked into. And some say that it goes into that identity center, which is like where the direction, or they call it magnetic monopole. But this is like a center of you, your being, your higher self. Everything is there. I might be slightly wrong the way I'm using the words, but that's the idea. This is like the it. And the projector can see very deeply. They have very heavy, high focused aura, and they can see when things are misaligned. So we are here, and projector is a very new type actually to the development of a human being. So we're here brought to be guides. You're working with generators and be guides because we just see through that confusion, and we can guide. And we're very good at systems. We're very good at efficiency, because we don't have that sacral thing that says, I have available energy. We actually don't have access to that at all. So we can borrow this energy working with you, and that feels really good for us, while we're in the auric interaction. But unless you invite us, unless you see that we are the guides for you, so like individually, one-on-one. So you, Kaki, you see me as I'm the guide. You ordered the blueprint work for me, and then we met on the call, and I'm giving you advice, and you are open to me. You say, okay, Juliette, I get you. I see you as someone who can tell me, and I might respond yes to what you're saying. But you gave me permission with my so heavy. If you ever had a laser surgery, guys, if you ever had laser surgery, you would know. It's like you can't escape. You can't escape. This beam goes, and within seconds, there's a hole in your face or something. It's like you cannot escape it. So imagine if you're not invited and you're giving this advice to someone. How this goes, whoa, what's this? This is like heavy person. So understanding this about yourself, and understanding, and there's also other types, but understanding how you operate is real key to then understanding yourself. So for me, as a projector who is focused on the other and can only make sense of themselves through the other, because we're not designed to be focused within what am I, right? It's always confusion. Every projector agrees with me. We don't know who we are in a way. Yes, there is a sense of who we are inside, but we're always trying to get the feedback because we don't have this certainty. We don't have this sense of inner satisfaction in ourselves ever. So we need the others for this feedback. We need the others. And this is like an exchange. So we guide, but in exchange, we see something in that other person about ourselves, and we learn who we are through that. And a lot of projectors, and not just projectors, not only exclusive to that, but a lot of us are personality test junkies because of this, because we don't know who the hell we are. And I've been like this all my life until, and I did everything in the book. I took all the tests. Some of the tests I liked more than the others. And sometimes I had really bad experiences, for example, with Enneagram, because I was in a very disempowered state when I took a test. And it's a test based on questions you have to answer, and then you score. So my scores were, I think there was 22 points on this number 6, which is a kind of worrying. I worry at that stage. Of course I worried. I was, everything was falling apart in my life, and I got this highest score on that worry profile, worry fueled. And yet the next score, 21, was about a researcher in human design and one line for 1-3 profile. That is a, very mental processes, researcher, intellectual processes line. I'm not saying I'm an erudite. I'm not saying that I know everything, but it's a constant thinking. That's why people with first lines, they're usually very introspective. And sometimes they say it's self-centered, but that's the way we're designed. Don't hold against us. So I was treated then. I had to take this test for work, and I was treated while I was in that employment based on the highest score, although they should have looked at what was actually just up there, because we display different archetypes or different traits depending on our state of mind. Then when I came across human design, and I honestly don't remember, I think somebody just mentioned, and I jumped into that rabbit hole, research, I actually, this is funny, but this week I found on my computer my very first human design reading. It was quite, it was a very basic, very, I wouldn't say that it was in depth, and I saw my face. I was like, wow, whoa, what's going on? It's too much information. I don't understand. What is this? What is this human design profile? What is this? And now I really have such a grasp on these things, and they've changed my life. And that was, only 3 or 4 years ago when I had that reading. So when I came across that, one thing that really was huge, like it was like a lightning bolt struck me, because I didn't have to answer any questions. This was something that's inside me, no matter if I'm in empowered or disempowered state in my mind, and it's something that's just given to me, and I'm here to experiment and explore. And also it gave me this notion, the idea that a lot of things I think that we should be doing, or the way the world is conditioning. So somebody else made it up, or maybe there is a planetary transit and the planet just influences us this way. It's very funny. This year specifically, I am really watching these transits and how they affect our life, and it's amazing, because there'd be a transit and you feel like falling in love, and bang, I'm in love. How did that happen? And so then you're thinking, okay, did I enter these relationships with my authority? Was it really the correct way to enter it, or was it the transit? And I find that so we get conditioned, and nobody. The other thing, that my personal aha moment, that we can't be fully aligned living in the world with other people always in our auras, because I live in the apartment block, so there's somebody above me, somebody beside me, somebody below me. These people are constantly in my aura. My aura is being conditioned. There could be someone with emotional authority having a really low emotional wave, and now I'm sitting here in a bad mood, and I don't know why. I have a completely open emotional center. So I'm just saying that this is conditioning. Plus, if there was no people, say I went off grid, there's still the planets. So in order, so really, the bottom line here is not to try and find this full alignment, but to live your human life with the awareness of what's correct and what's incorrect for you. And for that, you really just need that understanding of how your aura works. What are you here to experience? What is your existential question? And also, what is your authority that helps your inner guidance or outer guidance? Some people don't have the inner guidance. How do you make decisions that are correct for you? And are you entering whatever you want to enter correctly for you or incorrectly? Now, correctly might mean that it's still a mistake, but it's a mistake you need to make so you know what not to do. And that makes it very interesting experience because you take responsibility. And this is what I really like, this like radical responsibility for your life. So yes, if I make a mistake, I might suffer, I might not be pleasant, but it's correct for me because now I know what things are. Because how can you know what beauty is in life if you have never experienced the ugly?
Mm.
And for me, human design just really, it just blew my mind. Not in one day. It took some time, but it blew my mind. And where I knew that it's a calling, there was 2 points. One, when I realized that I talk about human design to absolutely anybody who listens or doesn't listen. I just couldn't stop talking about it. I talked about it to clients. I sold a program, a mentorship program, promising my clients that I'm going to talk about human design. Now, these clients already knew me from my previous area of expertise, which was organic Facebook marketing. I was always, doing something visibility related. And I started seeing why in my own journey, things don't work out the way they work out in some of my clients. So I kept talking about human design and I sold the program, but I didn't actually talk about human design officially still for the next year. And I had to step out of my human design closet and, reveal it to the world because I felt like I'm a very logical, practical person. Very, I always focus on how can we efficiently but strategically create something bigger version of yourself. And it was scary to come out of this closet. Nowadays, in 2024, human design is becoming popular. It's becoming popularized, which I don't like because it simplifies not in a nice way and then distorts the system, So I don't like that. But then, it was still scary because it was still felt like it's a woo-woo thing. But when I did it, something changed. I could see how when I was speaking about human design, even to people who didn't have like an open stance to it, I was the one who would open the door for them. So there was one lady on my blueprint call, and she said to me, everybody tells me there is a door in that wall. I don't see it. Even after your blueprint, I don't see it. And then after 45 minutes of us just chatting, she said, Juliette, I see the door. I see the door. This is not like, some sort of like evangelistic thing, like, oh my God, now I see, this has nothing to do with that. It's just this understanding that, hey, by the way, things in your life are in a certain way, you're resisting it, but in a certain way, they could be tweaked, that it will become easier because it will be more natural, but you have to give yourself permission to be natural. You have to give yourself permission to allow to experience this journey. So it's like a fork in the road, and everybody's going this way and there's this other way. But if you don't go and experience what's there, you will never know. But that could be your way. It could be the best shortcut to the best treasure. That's what I think the human design does. And for me, the biggest things, 2 things that were really big was talking about myself. I had a trauma in my adult life, had a fight with my mom, and she said to me, you're so selfish, you always talk about yourself. When you were a child, you always talked about yourself, and now I want to talk about myself and you don't listen. And I was traumatized. It's not a nice thing to hear from your mother, so it's like, okay, it's the next thing to unpack. And then with human design, and I learned about my profile 1-3, human design profile that is introspective. This is karmically someone who is totally in their head all the time. And talking about themselves is natural and something that actually gives others very unique perspectives and insights that this person is constantly, processing in their mind. So I don't need to worry about what value I bring. Everyone who is listening will take something they need out of what I'm talking about, even if I talk about myself. That was a mind-blowing thing. That changed everything. In fact, when I was writing my book on marketing and human design, as a strategist, I was very strategic. I said, okay, what keywords can we use in the name of the book? that I will be discoverable. Marketing, human design, of course. But then I had a huge imposter syndrome because I thought, well, I'm not a certified human design analyst, and I can't just I don't want to write another textbook. And then I had this aha moment. I thought, hang on a second, but I am a 1-3. I am here to talk about myself and share my opinions. So I added one little word on marketing and human design, Juliette's contemplations and I thought, oh my God, from that moment, the level of confidence, level of even cockiness to an extent, to express what I want to express. I finished that book in probably 2 weeks after that, and I had 1.5 months of writer's block. Because it's about giving yourself permission to be you. The moment that happened, that was permission to be me. And I was able then to flow. And ever since, I haven't even twice. Now nobody can say to me, Juliette, but you're not this. Because I'm saying, yeah, but this is my opinion. It's not the truth. I'm not telling you this is how things should be. Nobody should tell you how things should be, right? Because that's conditioning. I am just sharing what I see. And I see, maybe because I'm not an analyst, I actually see the wood behind the trees. I still have that ability. I'm a little bit not cooking in it too much in the whole knowledge and little, detail that is quite irrelevant, because if you're not following your strategy and authority and you're not living this experiment, human design means nothing. It's just information. So, and the second moment when I really knew that something amazing is happening is when I have a podcast, Human Design Podcast, Visibility by Design. And I interviewed one of the most educated in human design people in the world, Lavina Archers, who pulled up my chart. And she said that there is in my chart, and especially in Chiron return, which is, after you're around the age of 50, you enter the stage of your life where you can, you expand, you really can step into your role, your purpose, live out your purpose in life. And she was saying that this is something that you were here, you're born to spread the word about this. You please answer Ra's call and spread the word about this. And that was just a confirmation of something that I already, and she's a projector, so she saw right into me, that this was the right thing. So what I do these days is I stay on the sidelines. I don't want to go too deep, because it's really important not to go too deep and not to lose the perspective for me. And I still see how using human design to develop, not develop something that doesn't exist, but develop what's natural to you. What is your brand voice? And lean into it and feel that sense of cockiness that I felt the moment I had an aha moment, that all I need to do is reframe. I don't need to change anything. I just don't need to be a different person. I just need to reframe. Instead of saying, this is information about marketing and human design, I turned it into my opinion, and it became a bestseller to start with, in marketing of all categories. I have a screenshot where all the other books, there's 6 books in the screenshot. Mine is number 1, and everything else is ChatGPT and email marketing and other things that, God, don't start me on that. And I was very proud, actually, because I think that the energy that I finished this book and edited this book and just let it into the world was so aligned with who I am. And that is the result of giving yourself permission.
I love that. Everything that you've mentioned, like, it really comes down to, like you say, living your design and giving yourself permission. And then with that, that's when things flow and
Yes.
and everything just works out. But when you're not aligned, that's, well, you had writer's block for however long. And yeah, so it's just beautiful to see, once you see, be aware of your design, start, living it, then things can change. I want to ask you, because you said you don't go too deep. What do you mean by that? Because yes, I know there's a lot with human design. So
Yes.
For someone starting out, what does it even mean to live your design? And there's gates and there's
There's so much information. What's interesting? As I study human design, because of course I want to know a little bit more, I paid a lot of attention that almost in every lecture that I listened, that Ra Uruhu, the created the initial teacher, he always stresses that all of this is information. The information is very seductive to our mind, to the mind that gets hooked up on conditioning and wants to know, and and so what happens is that then the mind distracts us from what really we need to pay our attention to, is our strategy and authority. It's how we interact with others, what are we here to do, and making correct decisions. That is what living your design is. It's not about knowing what channels you have. It's not about knowing even what profile you have. All those things actually they were even developed later, at a later stage. Human design as a teaching started with strategy and authority, and that makes a huge difference. Nothing. So whatever gifts you have, some people get really into Gene Keys, and I love other guys in the industry. I love Richard Rudd. I love Chetan Parkin. I love a lot of people who are there. I'm really drawn to how they explain it. But I also just need to give a warning if you're starting out. It's just seductive information. It means nothing if you don't actually experiment in your life with your strategy. If you're a generator, look on the outside, respond. It's constant. Learn what it is. Learn what the strategy and authority is. Find your own definition. I mean, how does it feel to you? Because we're unique. Human design system is a science of differentiation. It's a system created to describe how unique you are. This means that we have 5 energy types. That doesn't mean that every generator will be responding in the same way. You have a unique experience how you're doing that. When you really live through it, so you play with it, right? You start developing your own sense. This is what responding is to me. Now I've responded. Now this is a no, this is a yes. So you can sense it in your body. And that gives you so much confidence over time to follow it or not. Because, as I mentioned, we are not living in a world where full alignment is possible. So you will be conditioned. And of course, we're making some decisions out of conditioning, out of logic, and not following for me, it's intuition. The spleen is very intuitive, like an animal almost, like just sensing this is good for me, this is not good for me. And I don't every time follow my intuition, but you know what? When I don't, it reveals itself so fast that it's a wrong thing. But I knew that there was a no. I remember that in my body because I now pay attention to my body so much that I remember that there was this, sense of danger in the back of my neck or metallic taste in my mouth. And we all have different ways that yes or no shows with us. And human design does give us some, as a compass, as a map. It's nothing more than that. It's not a rule book. It's not if you are this, then you should be doing this. There's no shoes. But when you live it, when you experiment with watching, building this awareness within yourself, then you will see that there is a way you should do it because your body tells that your body responds or your body reacts in a certain way, or you get clarity. If you're mental projector or reflector, you don't have the inner authority. Your body you get the clarity by maybe talking at people or living through this experience over time. There's different things that contribute to it. Those are the only things that are important. What gates I have, what channels I have, it's not that important. It's just interesting. That's all. So when I want some interesting stuff, then I go and I read, I have this channel of, 6234, channel of logic, where I doubt everything. I question everything. It's like everything's okay, but so this explains why my first reaction to everything is no. But then it doesn't work individually. So I can't just define myself by this one channel. I have to also remember I'm a 1-3. One line will also question things because it needs security. There is your whole design. It's like a synergy. It works in a synergy. It's an ecosystem of an energy that let me rephrase that. It's like an ecosystem that's there to help you make correct decisions. That's all. And it definitely, when you find yourself, especially when you find yourself, there's a big risk, and we all do that. I do that. We put ourselves in the box. I'm a projector, so I'm a generator, so those are only very surface level things. And just because there's 2 generators doesn't mean they're the same. It doesn't mean that they experience things the same. I hope that this answered it. I might have gone off a little bit, but
okay. I love listening to you talk about this because I'm like, oh yeah. It's just such a great reminder.
How deep
is too deep? Yeah. So yeah.
In my book, actually, how deep is too deep? You don't need to go deep. You just tap your toes. Make sure that you know that this is water, right? You make sure that you know that you're not stepping on something that's just going to fall through. So that's all you need. Strategy and authority. For marketing, I find that understanding your human design profile, and this is why I go deeper in the blueprints into the profile, because in your profile there's two lines. One is conscious, your personality, and the other one is a design, subconscious. So the first one is something like, it's all the mental hookups. I call them cockroaches in your head. It's a Russian saying, and my first language is Russian. So the cockroaches in your head, cockroaches are unpleasant, but they're not dangerous. Right? They're just unpleasant. But if you see a cockroach, you're not going to go there. And that's why they're dangerous. And that's why we call them cockroaches in your head. It's the annoying thoughts that just block you, right? And you can't move forward. So the personality line gives very good indications. What are your cockroaches are like? what color they are? What shape they are? So you know exactly. Like, I know my cockroaches as a first line is the imposter syndrome. Who you are. How dare you to talk about this because you don't have enough knowledge. But I have more knowledge in this specific thing than most, because my brain is designed to find the bottom line. So I don't need to know everything. I actually have non-existing memory. I don't remember anything, but I get things and I will never forget the bottom line. And that's the kind of way of how the mind is processed information. So what does it give me, the understanding of this profile? It gives me a freedom from, I don't have to teach. I don't have to, in my business, to create online courses and teach something, because teaching is not what 1-3 does. What 1-3 does is shares their insights and perspectives. So I'm much more effective as a mentor, and maybe focusing on visibility, where I just share this vision, and then, offering something where I can work with people together and share what I see in them. So it's just understanding. And then the other thing is giving yourself permission. Like I said, how deep is too deep? Well, I give myself permission because I don't have memory. I will never remember what each gate or each channel, or, I'll never remember them. My interests are all, or my memory is interest based. If it was interesting, I will remember it. If it's not interesting, it just goes, there's too much going on in my head. So it was giving myself permission to show up and start using human design with my clients, because I can see what matters, what is the bottom line for marketing, for example, and what is just personal development and just interesting to know. And you really don't need to spend time on that in order for you to allow yourself to create content from a certain brand voice, like talk about yourself. For example, you can give me other profiles and I can tell you what I see that they should be doing. That's a different kind of conversation. But as an example, again, everything goes back to permission to be you, permission to be unique you, and not to then feel bad, and just allow yourself to be. That's the ultimate happiness, isn't it? When you just allow yourself be yourself.
Yeah, and I don't think most people allow themselves to just be themselves. It's not something that we are taught to do. The whole, growing up, your
Culture.
parents want you to be,
Yes.
culture, school, society, all of it. As you were talking, these two questions came up, so I'm going to ask you. So before you discovered human design, because you said you were very logical, were you spiritual at all before then?
Yes.
Or okay, right.
Yes, I was always open to magic. I grew up reading fairy tales. Like, this was my kind of like sci-fi fairy tales, the fantasy, right? So the magic. That's how the child goes into spirituality, I think, through that. I was always open to things, and I always was open to any kind of esoteric things to do with energy. When I was a teenager, my mom went through this cool, like, a decade where she was into energy work and healing and things. And she was also she was like a woman with a strong career, sense of career, working woman. And, it wasn't like she didn't have flowers in her hair. It wasn't that kind of thing. So for me, it was also a role model that you can be very, kind of left-brained, strategic person, and at the same time, do energy clearances and things like that. I always believe in supernatural and other things that I'm open to. But one thing I wasn't religious. That was because I grew up in Soviet Union. We didn't have religion there then. It wasn't something that we had other kind of brainwashing, so there was another type of the same thing. But no, really. So I was never religious. And in a way, I think that maybe it gave me some sort of way of not being stuck with one way of how you should be doing things. I, of course, researched and learned and experienced a lot of things. I was even in a cult for 2 months, so I know how it is to get stuck in a belief.
You can't just drop that and then kind of like gloss over it.
More worse than probably it was at that stage. It wasn't that kind of cult where they, live in the middle of a desert and things like that. But it was still very culty. It's one of the Christian branches, and it just felt really cult-like to me. And I almost lost my identity in it. And that was one of the biggest things. What I didn't like when I was there, and with the help of somebody to break this energetic cocoon that's built around me, then within, days, really, I really didn't like the idea that we were promoted as the army of God, and so you don't have the individuality. My question was like, how are you unique then? But I mean, I bring a set of gifts, and I know as a projector, I like feeling successful. This is my signature feeling. But how can I feel successful if I'm just one of the cog? I can't. I'm not seen then. It definitely was a big problem that I had with it, and so I think sooner or later it probably would have, I would have left anyway, but I was lucky. I was saved early in the road, down the road. But I was very, very open, always open. The angel numbers, I have 1111 every day. My alarm rings. It says slow down to accelerate. I have a couple of angel on earth that I follow. I call them angel on earth because they are life-changing guides. One of them is Elizabeth Peru. She is a fellow Australian. So I've been following Elizabeth for 14 years now, I think, and subscriber to her tip-off. And she's literally changed my life. In talking about being, empowered by another woman. Oh, this is my personal experience, right? So I'm not here promoting Elizabeth. It's just there's other people like this as well popping in and out of my life, and I know that we're all connected. We're just light beings. And we're connected. We're in these bodies. We're experiencing this in a certain way. Some of us awake from it. Some of us, don't. The older generations struggle to awake as much as younger generations. Now I'm looking at my daughter who is 23 now, and they have a very different experience yet again. And their awakening is very different to, say, people my generation. So yeah, the answer is yes.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned that you don't have to have flowers in your hair to be spiritual. You can be logical and spiritual, and it works. It actually works better when you're logical and spiritual rather than fully logical or fully spiritual. It just works better.
There's so many people in the world who are just normal people. I consider myself being an ordinary, normal person. And we are deeply spiritual, but we're afraid to show it to the world because of this kind of like a whole new age group that then you think you have to be like this, and you don't have to be like this. And I honestly, I'm laughing now because I just started new relationships and with a very spiritual gentleman who is also very logical and practical and really amazing, intelligent person. And he's not a new age person, but it seemed to me like he was. And I had to ask him. I said, "Listen, there's going to be a deal breaker. How new age are you? Because there's a level of new age. I'm not going to go there." And like he has a shamanic drum. We have it in our bedroom now, and but thankfully he was just like me. And I wish more people would step out of this terrible closet that, being afraid that just because you are talking about spirituality, you have to be like, those people who take it, I find, to a little bit of an extreme because they also live in a bubble. This is not awakening in my experience, in my world view, in my lifetime. I'm not imposing this opinion. This is my opinion, guys. But you don't have to go and buy into a culture in order for you to open up and be yourself and be as spiritual as you get. This is not about retreats. It's not about it's not about all those courses. It's really about a permission to be you. I'm just keep bringing this back to this one point.
I love it. I love it so much. Thank you. I think that's such an important message for people to hear. So important, especially now. I feel like there's so many people that are awakening, but they're scared. I was one of them when I started my awakening. Like, oh, what would my friends think? That I'm, spiritual, but I don't look,
It's true. It's a valid point. When I started speaking about human design, I had actually, my friend said to me a couple of times something like, well, just don't go into the human design with this. Even my current partner said that. Even the spiritual person said, well, I know that like in human design, but let's not talk about this now. Yeah, but we get so excited about this, and then again, who is your audience is very important to know. That's why online is such a wonderful platform for your when you're awoken and you want to expand this and you want to empower others. The online world there's people who will hang on each word you're saying, because they need to hear this, because in their geographical location or real life, we have these people who are not always correct. The members of your true family are not always people who connect to you by blood. That's what
Yes. Yes, I totally agree with that. It's like, we don't understand
We're all
each
lovely.
other.
The
Yes.
blood people are fine. They're fine. They're just not your people.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. And the other question that came out as you were talking, because you talked about listening to your body, and I find that very interesting because we are not taught to listen to our body. Did you listen to your body before, or as you were embodying more of your human design, that's when you started listening more to your body?
This is an amazing question. I think I always trusted my intuition, always. And I also had premonitions. I have stories I can tell. When I was 3, my mom once, she went to the dentist, and then she hears everybody in the waiting room is laughing. She came out, and apparently I was telling a story to everybody that, I'm going to travel abroad and I'm just going to marry a guy. He's going to be a music producer and all these kind of things. Something I was telling them this story. I was young. I think maybe I wasn't 3 because I knew music producer. Anyway, my late husband, my second husband, was a music producer. I had to travel all the way to Ireland to meet him. I knew things are happening, and weird accuracy about those things, and with living with that husband, I kind of joked about me outliving him and moving in with my daughter, and like making a joke. And he was saying, why are you saying this? I'll outlive you. And I said, no, because I knew. And, I was only 46 when he passed away. He passed away quite young. He was only 63. And so these are things that I just knew. And I learned over, the decades to just trust the journey. I know that something is going to happen, or I know that something is correct. And it's in my body. It's this, it's not, how would I put it? It's not a hunch. It's like as if it's a fact that's happened already and you know it. So when somebody says to you that it's not going to happen, it's annoying to hear because they're wasting time, because it feels like it's already happened or something. My daughter won a very prestigious award in Trinity College Dublin. She's quite intelligent, and she won the awards called Scholes, Trinity Scholes. So that award came with 5 years of accommodation on site, on campus, and beautiful Harry Potter style meals, and tuition was paid. She's now doing her PhD. She's in the 5th year of this scholarship that she got with this award, and a nomination and a title that she will always have for the rest of her life. And she had to sit 4 exams, and they were very nervous. Her and my husband, they were so nervous, worrying, will she get it? Will she not get it? And I was saying, of course you're going to get it. And they were annoyed at me that I was saying it with such arrogance. But for me, it was annoying that they are worried, because it's this knowing you have. And you're just, why are you worrying? It's going to happen. And it really definitely did, So we had a ceremony where people were calling out these, the skulls. It was a very traditional ceremony on the square of Trinity College. And just before they said, theoretical physicist, Chantal Esper, I had this flutter in my chest just before the sound started, and I knew that moment. I just knew. So this is the spleen. This is your body telling you. You have to tune in. When I started experimenting with my consciously with human design, strategy, and authority, I always felt like I'm already halfway there. I don't need to start from scratch. It's not a completely unknown information to me. It just gave me words to describe what I've already been experiencing, and then moving towards unraveling, and really paying attention to. So as I said, not every day you pay attention to your body. It's not a destination, but it's an experience where sometimes you just know. And other times you know that your body knew this way, but you went the other way. So you can correct. You don't need to be frustrated that you made a mistake. You just correct. You go back because you knew it was bad or a good decision. So that's how I can describe it.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that, you saying I didn't have to start from scratch because it was something that you were already doing. Do you have any tips for people to learn to like start listening to their body, because it's not something that most people do?
Yeah, it's not something that so here's the thing, because there's 9 types, well, I showed 5 here if you're watching the video, 9 types
Yeah, I'll give you
authority. Yeah, so most of us have the inner guidance. So something in our body that tells us. Sacral for the generators tells us yes or no. Now half of the generators also have emotional authority. So on top of that sacral yes or no, there's an emotional wave. You're an emotional. So emotions are very powerful. Emotions overpower everything. And when you have an emotional authority, you really need to wade through this wave of emotional up and down to see if that yes is still a yes, if this decision feels right throughout your mood swings, that are happening. Now, guys, when we're talking about emotional authority, that doesn't mean that in real life, emotional authority people are like drama queens. Well, if it's actually a lot of people with emotional authority are quite on the surface, they seem together and calm, and then people with open emotional center amplifying this energy, they go into the drama. I see that all the time, but it's still a mood swing, right? And so making a decision spontaneously, it's the last thing an emotional authority person should be doing, because it's good for you to be indecisive. It's good for you if you felt through the decision and you know that it's a correct decision. You can enter whatever it is, you can get in there, you feel right no matter what your mood is. If you don't have an emotional center defined, your generator, you have this sacral, say yes or no, but you have to be careful if there's people in your aura, right? Because you have this porous aura, people can, it's very easily to penetrate that. So other people, maybe their charisma, their excitement can cloud your judgment or how you listen to your body. So it's really important to understand who you are. There's splenic authority like me. We have also different, there's a couple of authorities are based on your will center that's defined. So you can have a will center defined if the other ones are not. So if your emotional is not defined and splenic is not defined, then the authority passes to the next kind in the hierarchy of centers. And then there's this will center. And the will center is like, I want to do it, so I will have energy to do it. And then it works as well as a motor. It works like a pulse. And understanding that this is a motor that works like a pulse, it's like it's on, and then it's off, and it's not going to go on until it recharges fully, or until its time comes. So resisting this, and that's what happens, there's so much frustration can happen because your will went off and you're like, oh, and I don't want to do this anymore and I'm stuck now, and we start getting frustrated and resist this stuckness, this plateau. But actually you could just lean into the boredom for a while, do something else maybe, and then come back and let that let that will go back up, when it's ready. It's really good to understand. There's also other types of authorities where the authority comes through your voice, for example, when you can talk at other people, and as you say it, you will feel if it's correct or incorrect to you. So it's not necessarily a body, but a feeling. It's very interesting. And then there's other people who don't have even that sense. So their clarity, I'm talking about mental projectors and reflectors, they just don't have any definition, or mental projectors don't have anything below their throat. And sometimes some of the top centers undefined too. For them, talking at many people to feel how this decision feels, and they have to have like trusted advisors, not people who will try to fix them and jump into a solution mode, but people who just listen, literal sounding boards. And through expressing themselves, they can get some sort of sense of clarity, and then it will feel good and they can do things and it will be correct to them. So there is a process for some of us. Some of us, it's a body. When you learn, when you do your human design chart, the key thing is to understand and then go research and read as much as you possibly can. And that's my first line says to you, research until you get the grasp of the bottom line. What is this authority? And then start trying to feel it in your body. Don't take it on the surface level, just like the words. Human design uses a lot of words that are very misleading. For example, a generator needs to wait to respond. You're actually responding all the time. You're responding in your body. Your body literally responds all the time to different things. It's not like a lightning bolt strikes and then you respond to it. It's nothing like that. But most of us assume that this is how the sacral works. No, it doesn't. Waiting for invitations is a strategy for a projector, but the invitations are everywhere. For you, the key is not to wait for the invitations in general, because projectors get so bitter. Oh my God. And they turn into, like, it turns into a bitch fest. Sorry, projectors, but you're bitches when you're bitter, right? Stop, because you have invitations everywhere and they're staring at you. It's about recognizing what's correct for you, what's not correct. And it's about allowing you to be an outsider that you're born to be, and not trying to get in with everyone and, and with your laser focused aura, annoying people who did not invite you, right? Step back, allow these things to come to you. Focus on yourself, focus on what lights your, lighthouse as that you are, right? It's just understanding this. So the waiting is not waiting like a waiting room. It's a very, very active process. This is the key with human design. This is what I try to, this is what I say I live my human design experiment. It's about these definitions. What is the invitation? What is waiting for invitations? Definitely not being passive, because that's when nothing happens. And you just feel like, and then you start focusing on the rest. I'm going to talk about this if you allow me. I call it selfish marketing, but it should be not, if it's not about marketing, it's really about life. It's not about selfish as in being egotistic, or in a bad sense, selfish. But if you had self in all caps, all capitals, right? It's about focusing on within. Majority of people in the world are in human design right angle cross people. So we are here to focus within on ourselves, and karmically there's something we're learning about our own experience here. It's not necessarily connected to others. Even with some people, it might be slightly connected to others, but it's still about you. It's not about them. A smaller amount of people then are left angle cross people, and they are here. It's still a personal experience for them, but their experience is focused on the others. They're here to universalize. Fifth line people, for example, they universalize the information, so they sense, they tell others what to do. Basically, they condition others, or it's about their perfection. Sixth line people, about a perfection within themselves, and so they become role models for others. So they also condition others, but not by telling them what to do, but actually by being something others want to be and inspiring them in this way. But majority of people are still right angle cross. They are within. So selfish marketing, selfish living, selfish marketing. In marketing, it's like, stop following traditional marketing advice to focus on your customer, depending on the niche, of course, guys, depending on the niche. I work with coaches. I work with people who are experts building their personal brand. So you're showing up with sharing what you see, your vision, your own stories. It's about you and in your perspective. And people get drawn to those people who share. Like, let's just think about like the top names, like, Mel Robbins, a woman, strong opinions. She tells, and you're drawn to her. You're drawn to her. Yes, she gives some tips, and yes, she has, but it's still something that it's her vision, So we then, when we buy programs and access, we're buying programs not to learn necessarily her method, or especially with coaches. We buy access to these coaches. We buy access to these people because these people are drawing us with their energetics. There's no way you can be this magnetic if you're focusing your attention on others all the time. You have to focus within. You have to focus on what is it that you see. What is it that makes you vibe if you're a generator? Who are you in this, right? If you're a projector, you have to be that lighthouse with the light on, but the lighthouse doesn't swim into the sea and get the boats. That's how ridiculous it is to focus on the others and what they need to hear. Oh, I don't know how to market my business. What do they need to hear? Well, I don't know. I don't know I don't know what Kaki needs to hear to invite me to the podcast. I don't know. I'm not a clairvoyant person. I'm just an ordinary person. But if I allow myself to express myself, and then Kaki hears something and she invites me to the podcast, That's how this whole thing works, right? That's how I'm getting extra visibility, and that's how I can then show up in as part of my visibility and promoting my business. I'm not saying I'm going to sell anything here, but this is just to demonstrate. And I love this concept within everything. We're too hooked up on others, what they think about us, what they feel about us. Should we do this? Is it nice? Because conditioning, is it appropriate to do this? Is it how things are done? And I, these days, I'm probably like, I'm an anti a lot of things. And there is a disadvantage with living your human design, because you become so confident in who you are that you're breaking all the rules. You're starting to break all the rules. You're like, no, I don't want to be in your house. No, I don't want to do this. No, I know I don't want to commit to, even in my business. No, I don't want to do this call with the client today because I feel a little, under the weather. I have nothing to give. It's not going to be beneficial. So I don't have to commit just because we had a call booked. So I can ask if we can move the call, because it's going to be more beneficial when it's in the right time, the call takes place and I am on and they're receptive. Not just because we booked something in the calendar. These little things that we get really hooked up. Oh, but I promised. Oh, but I this. And giving yourself permission to be you releases you from that. Yes, there is another process that comes parallel to that, is a sense of guilt. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. But it wears off as well after a couple of years. So you stop even feeling bad about it. So it's in a way a path to freedom. I don't know if we can be truly free in the material world, in a modern society, but inside, personally, we can at least try to be as free as we get, because a lot of things that we follow are just nonsensical conditioning that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So yeah, selfish thing, focus within. Yeah,
I love that. And I love that. I mean, we have been talking about how to become a client magnet all this time with human design. And I love that, you brought this to, being selfish, as you call it. But, it really is so important to, I mean, that's why we're all here. Like you say, you like to, your thing is to share your opinion. And I'm like, oh, I think Juliette's really cool. Like, so I come to you and it's your opinion. So it is about the self. And then when I share, it's about, my experience. And then people are like, oh, Kaki's interesting, or I want to find out more about her. So it's so interesting because, like, when I've, been in the online space and people talk about marketing, and it's always like, who's your like ideal client, and like, what do they want to hear? And I love that. It's just like, nope, come back
it
to
depends
you.
on what we have to be. There's a disclaimer. Every industry is different. There are industries where if you're offering a product, if you're e-commerce business, of course you need to know your clients, you need to know their lifestyle, you need to know, where they kind of hang out, what status they think they have, because you will be marketing a boutique differently than some sort of like cheap range, department store. So you have to know that. But when it comes to some other industries where the personal brand is what actually sells, right? For example, coaches, for example, any kind of people, thought leaders, then you're just guessing. This is just guessing. You will never know. And so you're wasting your time with those programs, because in those programs, and I'm sorry, I'm going to say this, I'm anti-traditional marketing, because there's too many people out there seeing that there is a demand on giving a strategy. And when there is a demand on something, there will always be people who will try to supply it. Whether that supply is correct for you or not is a different question. I see business coaches selling strategies to, say, coaches that are completely inappropriate for coaching industries, for the way these people are attracting clients and what they sell. Because what a coach sells is not information. What a coach sells is not a product. What a coach sells is transformation, aha moments, a little nudge for you to get off your ass and do something, right? The coach there is, or mentor, guide, they're not selling you something tangible or your results, because your results are on you. But they sell you this moment to get unstuck, unblocked, to have a better vision. I don't know specifically for me, my ideal client, what I have to say for them to work with me, I can't. But what I know I can say is what I see, is what I experience, is my stance, is here's why this doesn't work, which is also actually a very 1-3 line profile marketing language. Here's what doesn't work. The traditional business doesn't work for this industry. It's really important when you're starting your business, or if you're, in a slow growing, not growing, like a first startup stage, which lasts much longer than we expect. It's really important that you have the clarity on what your niche is, what is actually that you're selling, so you can choose this advice that's out there, like a fire hose of advice, because you are actually someone who is quite ignorant in business yet still, and so there will be a lot of people trying to supply you in a very shiny package things that you don't need. You don't need it. You need to understand what you're selling. You need to understand how, in your specific niche, how people buy from you. Like, I know how people, come to me. I've experienced this now. It's not that I guessed it. I didn't fill some sort of 50 pages ideal client avatar, and I still don't. I can't. I don't know my ideal client, but I know that everyone who I meet, and my first step, the foot in the door, we call it, is a marketing blueprint by design report, like you ordered, right? And I have not met an incorrect person on this call ever since I started it 3 years ago. Not a single person that I would be looking at this person and thinking, oh my God, how did this happen? So, and I used to be a nightmare client magnet in my previous life, because, doing things completely from a wrong perspective. So showing up and allowing yourself to be you. How you become a client magnet? Allow yourself to be you. Allow yourself to share the way you want. Allow yourself to create your business and your visibility around what's convenient to you and what you enjoy. So maybe everybody says you need to be hustling on Instagram, and you feel really, so much work. Well, if it's so much work, if you feel like this, maybe it is. Have you ever thought that maybe you don't need to be on Instagram at all in order for you to, fill your life with clients? Maybe you need a bigger version. Maybe you need to build your own castle, your own platform. Maybe you can turn your website into a bingeable platform. This is what I have, and it works. And here's a funny thing. Everybody's like, build your list, sell a freebie, or not sell a freebie, create a freebie. And I have a freebie, and that freebie just doesn't convert into clients. I'll get like 2 people, one person 3 months watched my freebie and then ordered a blueprint. That's not a conversion rate. I'm sorry. And yeah, there's like 4 or 5 people every day sign up, I can see. So, why? And it was very simple. The freebies, we are very excited to get them. Then we get this overload of information, right? And then we don't want to go to the next step, because the coach is actually selling transformation. They actually sell like work together, brainstorming, but you're still feeling guilty that you maybe haven't finished that course, or you're saying, oh my God, so much information, I need to process it. So I realized that I'm shooting myself in the foot by offering this course, because when I looked at the stats and all the people who are coming to my business and straight away investing, buying the blueprint, buying the report, they're coming from my free stuff, from blog that I write, from the podcast that I have, or being a guest on a podcast. So show up and share. Show up and share what's inside, what you have, what you see, your stories, what you experience, how you think, what you think is trustworthy. If you're a 6-line person, for example, it's all about, you have such a sense of what's trustworthy, what's worth trusting. And this is amazing. So your opinion is actually, it's going to sound really solid, because you have the vision and you see what's trustworthy, what's worth trusting, and what's not. And that's what you can share. With my case, like, what doesn't work? See the difference within a little brand voice angle. And that's what I really like about the human design. That's where it's a compass, but you become much more magnetic when you do things the way it's natural to you. That's how you attract. And no matter if you know who is your ideal client and what magazines they're reading, because that's completely irrelevant. I laugh, and there's a program for coaches, and they say, okay, fill in, what publications do they read? I don't know, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pitch a couple of publications, a couple of articles, right? So I have some lovely logos to add to my credibility shiny cover, you know, I do share in those articles authentically my opinions and my views and whatever I know. But then I have these logos that you know, position me as somebody. I'm not no longer, I look like someone who lives next door. You know, I have this some sort of idea of a status, because it's all about, guys, it's all about keeping up appearances, especially online. You build your status, you share your opinions, you become a thought leader, because a thought leader is just an ordinary person who has an opinion. That's all they are, right?
Yes.
But if you know enough, then you can lead with this, you know, because the more you believe in it, the more it sounds convincing, and there will be people who will, you know, subscribe to the same way of thinking. So that's how you become a leader. And this is what we do, for example, as coaches. That's how you become a client magnet as a coach. If you have an online shop, if you have an online shop, nobody says that you can't go on video and share your opinions, because you know how many people work with people connect to people. So you start showing up and talk about things that you like, and you are offering something completely irrelevant, right? But you're offering something there to sell. People will be buying that just because they're so into you. They'd be like, oh my God, she's brilliant and she sells candles. I want those candles.
Yes.
That's how we work. Yes, you see, you're saying yes. That's how we work. That's how I shop. I go to the coffee shop that doesn't have the best coffee, but has a waiter who knows exactly how I like my coffee. And, you know, then, you know, they know not to offer me anything with sugar, or they offer it just to have a joke. And I know it's a little interaction we have, and it's like a routine. And I go there because I like that. And it's about people. So you can always be the face of your business. You can always use this visibility thing where you show up, but you have to allow yourself to be yourself in order for you to have guts to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
And then it's addictive, because you start getting, you know, you start getting into it. And this is where you can be authentically you. As I said, nobody is there staring into your face. This is a little piece of plastic. It doesn't judge, doesn't talk back, doesn't, you know, you can just tell it your deepest secrets if you wanted to. And that's the most intimate way you can share. There are very little people, if any, in your personal life that will listen like so faithfully as your camera on your phone or your computer.
Yes. I love that. And
seriously.
it's so funny that you said you know, what was it, what magazine does your ideal client read? Because my thing when I was doing a course was, what color shoes do they wear? I'm like, I don't know. Like,
but you can't. Yeah, it's these crazy questions to ask, and it's just sometimes completely irrelevant. And those are the questions that then create a block, because then you sort of feel so helpless. One of my clients recently said they were building a website, and her web designer asked these kind of questions. You know, what is your ideal client? What do they listen to? And she said, well, I don't know. And she felt so small, and she felt so disempowered, and she had to ring me for an emergency session in a way. And I said, no, it's okay that you don't know, because I don't know, and I don't care. It's not about what shoes they're wearing, as long as they like the way I think and see things, and they can see that I can guide them. This is like, I'm a coach, I'm a guide, so that's it. That's what I'm offering. If I am, for example, if I have a boutique, I keep talking about the boutique, but anyway, I have a boutique, right? I am there who knows how to dress you up so you look $1 million.
yeah.
That's why you're coming to me, and you have to show that you are that kind of person, right?
Yes, definitely. I'm just looking at the time, and I mean, I can listen to you talk all day, but
and I can talk all day, as you know.
Yeah, I know. We should do like a 3-hour podcast one time.
Because this is such a great way of sharing, as I just mentioned, you know, and it's just, once you start, you can't stop. It's just so wonderfully great, like gratifying.
I always get very sad when I have to wrap up, and I've seen other podcasts that go on for hours, and I'm like, maybe I should do that.
I find that there's, you know what, everything good in its, you know, the timing is very important.
Yeah.
So, and we've been on for, you know, over an hour. So I think that this is enough information. There's so much to process, and I'm just grateful for anyone who is still listening.
Yeah. Thank you, Juliette. I want to ask you one last question, and that is, what is the take-home message that you want our audience to take home with them?
Okay, well, apart from one message that I kept, the point that I kept making about giving yourself permission to be you, I think one message is being selfish is a good thing. That's my message for you. It's not what you think. It's not that bad selfish that you're hurting others. Because when you're whole inside, selfish, like self, whole, when you're whole inside, your light is on. When your light is on, that's when you're shining for other people who are in the dark. So you have to fill your cup first. You have to look after yourself first. Focusing within actually makes much more impact than trying to grab onto everyone else and people please and do things that, for others that you think are of value, but nobody asked you, so they're not. Basically. So being selfish is good, but it's a process to come to this understanding. And I really highly encourage you to look up your human design strategy and authority and experiment with it. Read up on it. There's so much information. Like, you can just Google. You don't need to take courses. You don't need to, there's so much free information about it, and just watch and play with it and experiment. That's why it's called human design experiment. It's not a rule book. You're not bad just because you made a decision out of your head and not out of your, inner authority, for example. You're not bad. You didn't make a mistake. It's an experience. So yeah, that's the message. Turn within and watch the miracle happen.
Thank you for that. That's such a beautiful message. So, Juliette, I know you have a special offer for the audience. Would you like to talk a little bit about that and how they can find you and learn more about, all the amazing things that you do?
Well, the best place to go is my website, as I mentioned, my own platform. So JULIETTESTAPLETON.com, and you can snoop around there. And what I have to do, there is a little free course that you can, if you want, take. But to be honest with you, if you're an action taker, remember, human design is very unique to you, your human design. And so if you are a coach or an expert, and this is relevant to you, because this is the kind of audience that I work with, the attraction marketing, where you create content and you show up and you work on your visibility, is something that I would highly recommend focusing on versus any other kind of strategies, to be honest. So if you want to find out more and get some personalized recommendations, I create a 45 plus pages marketing blueprint by design report that Kaki has experienced. And what I'm going to give you as a gift is 50 euros off that report if you order it from the link, and the link will be probably in the description. So I'm not going to say the link. But if you come to JULIETTESTAPLETON.com, you will see the button start here in the menu. So that's where you can start. And that's my gift for you. Now, you don't have to, because I'm not here to sell, but there is a blog, there is a podcast as well with a lot of information. And if you really want to not learn about human design as such, because as I said, I do like certain things and we share some visions, but come and check us out. Check out what's available there, and we will take it from there.
Yeah. Thank you, Juliette. It's always amazing connecting with you and seeing your beautiful face, and just your energy is just so magnetic. Definitely. So thank you once again for being a guest on this podcast and for your time and your wisdom.